Yohanan was taken in the Spirit to the day of the Lord, the day of Yehovah, a day in the future that many prophets saw by divine visions. Yohanan was blinded by a light more intense than the noonday sun. As things began to come into focus, he saw a menorah, 7 lampstands, and the figure of a person walking in the midst of the lampstands. A voice like the roar of an ocean echoed out of the cloud of glory. It was Yeshua. He told Yohanan that the 7 lampstands are the 7 assemblies of Asia Minor to whom he commissioned Yohanan to deliver a message. The message? I am walking among you. I know what is going on behind closed doors. You are not deceiving anyone but yourselves. Some of you are doing what I ask you to do and are being persecuted for it. Most of you are frauds. You have 2 choices. Listen to me and obey me, or I will step in and take care of business. We either do it my way or we do it my way, but it will be done my way. This was a message for the churches in Asia Minor, and this is a message for the church today. The King is coming back, and he is not happy about the things being done in his name. Write to the messenger of the assembly at Ephesus, these things saith he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, who walks in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands. I know your works, and your labor, and your patience, and how you cannot bear them which are evil. And you have tried them that say they are apostles, and are not, and have found them liars. As with every letter to the 7 assemblies, Yeshua starts out with a reference to the vision that Yohanan saw. He wants each of them to know his position and authority, and that he is not to be trifled with. Then he begins his exhortation with praise for what they have been doing right. I know your works, and your labor, and your patience. Yeshua praised their patience, or more accurately, their endurance, their ability to hold up under hardship. The Greek text of the Revelation indicates that the work of the ministry had been stressful and that they had labored to the point of fatigue and sorrow. I know how you cannot bear them which are evil. Yeshua recognized that they had no tolerance for those who do evil and refuse to change. They were becoming more like him, intolerant of the posers, the role players, the hypocrites. There were those who did not have the Torah written on their hearts, but only feigned compliance to be accepted into the club, so to speak. As Jude said in his epistle, evil men have turned God's grace into license. These impostors had redefined grace to fit their commandment-breaking lifestyle. They excused themselves of abominable acts that the Almighty condemned. So pervasive was this grace perversion in the first century that Titus found it necessary to clarify the biblical definition of grace in order to remove all ambiguity concerning the subject. Grace is the divine empowerment to do that which is humanly impossible, to live a holy, righteous, and godly life in the middle of a sick, twisted, and perverse world. You have tried them that say they are apostles and are not, and have found them liars. Yeshua commended the Ephesians for putting to the test those who falsely asserted that they were apostles or sent ones. They righteously and cautiously asked the question, were these men and itinerant teachers actually sent by Yeshua, or did they send themselves? What is the fruit of their ministry? Are they making merchandise of the innocent and mislead the neophyte? They did not take the ministers of the gospel at their projected face value. They tested those who came into their congregations and exposed them as false apostles, opportunistic liars. You have borne up under the trials. You have endured, and for my name's sake, you have labored to exhaustion and have not fainted. Nevertheless is a long compound word that means but. Perhaps it could be more expressly rendered in the vernacular. Regardless of all your great attributes for which I've just praised you, we need to have a little come to Jesus meeting. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against you, because you have left your first love. Therefore, remember from which you have fallen. Repent, turn around, and do the first works. If you do not turn this thing around, I will come to you very soon, and I will shake up your assembly. I will do this unless you repent and do the first things I told you to do. These saints in Ephesus fully understood Yeshua's rebuke. They knew that they had gotten off track and had gotten caught up in the work of the ministry and had lost the love they first had when they came to Yeshua. He asked them to stop and remember from which they had come. Turn around and go back to that pure relationship and act out of love rather than duty or promise of reward. Experience teaches us that those who are engaged in the work of the ministry will always be in a battle. Either they will be on the offensive, storming the strongholds of the enemy and delivering the captives, or defending against the attacks of the adversary and his minions who attempt to steal, kill, and destroy. These saints in Ephesus had worked through fatigue and even endured exhaustion in the work of the ministry. And yet, they lost their way in the fracas of life and ministry. Yeshua shakes things up when we get out of bounds, both personally and in the body of believers. Those who pretend to belong to him but do not, he doesn't bother to correct. He ignores them unless they get in the way. There are those like Ananias and Sapphira who think that they can fool everyone. But both the messengers and the assemblies are under Yeshua's direct and vigilant supervision. The saints in Ephesus knew what they were supposed to be doing and were at one time doing at the point of exhaustion. Yeshua warns them to go back to their first love, or else. He is not playing the greasy grace game with his servants. But this one other thing you have going in your favor. You hate the deeds of the Nikolaiťans, which I also hate. There is one thing that Yeshua says he hates in the book of the Revelation, and it is something he has to deal with over and over in his ministry. The doctrine and the deeds of the Nikolaiťans. He hates it. He hates it. He absolutely hates it. And it keeps coming up over and over and over again. Doctrine and deeds are not far apart in their definitions. In the Hebrew culture, doctrine is what you do, not what you sit in a pew and think. Whereas in Western culture, doctrine is what you believe regardless of what you do or do not do. As Yakov, James put it, faith without works is dead. Faith is a verb, and a verb connotes action. It could just as well be spoken as a mathematical axiom. Action without action is not action. Or conversely, what you do is what you actually believe. When Yeshua tells the saints in Ephesus that he hates the deeds of the Nikolaiťans, and then tells the saints in Pergamum that he hates the doctrine of the Nikolaiťans, the doctrine of which he speaks is the didache, the teaching that results in Nikolaiťanism being accepted as a proper mode of conduct among the saints.
We as believers don't always get it right. Every time we think we are hearing from the Spirit, it may not always be the case. And even if we do hear from the Spirit, if we don't obey, we step outside of the Almighty's will. But what about the apostles? Did they get it right? What did they get wrong? And what can we learn from their mistakes? Michael Rood presents The Acts of the Apostles, a special teaching available only in September.
In order to understand the book of Acts, we have to go back to the opening and closing statements of the former treaties.
In the Acts of the Apostles, Michael Rood sets the stage for the book of Acts. The apostles are suddenly without Yeshua, the Messiah. They must now communicate with the Almighty by His Spirit, no longer having the luxury of speaking with Yeshua in person. The Acts of the Apostles is not on YouTube, and it's not available for sale. But we'll send you this exclusive teaching as our thanks for your love gift donation in September of just $50. Or with a donation of $100 or more, we'll send you the teaching plus a silver-plated shofar candle holder sculptured with scenes of Jerusalem and the words Shabbat Shalom in Hebrew. This handsome showpiece is perfect for welcoming the Sabbath every week. As a thank you from Michael Rood, when you donate $100 or more in September, you'll receive this special gift, plus the Acts of the Apostles teaching that explains how the apostles went through the same spiritual learning processes we do today.
This is the Acts of the Apostles and their disciples as they learn to walk by the Spirit the hard way.
Call now or visit us online to pledge your support and receive these exclusive gifts. Act quickly. This is a limited time offer. Make your love gift donation now.
Yeshua hates both the doctrine and the deeds of the Nikolaiťans. Nikolaiťan is a compound word in Greek which could not be more succinctly articulated in any other language. Niko means conqueror, transposed from Nike, the god of victory. Laity is the people, the laity, those who serve under the whim of the conquerors. Nikolaiťan, conquerors and rulers over the laity, the people. Since this is such an egregious transgression of the teachings of Yeshua, and this heresy is so universally ignored by modern churchianity, we would do well to understand Nikolaiťanism so that we can keep ourselves as far as possible from this defilement that had already infiltrated the assemblies of Asia Minor in the first century. Let's go back to Yeshua's earthly ministry to find out why he detests this doctrine with such a holy and intense hatred. In the year 28, a 13th month was necessary to allow the barley to ripen before Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. During this month, Yeshua made one last circumnavigation of the Galilee, and his last stop before going up to Jerusalem for Passover was the city of Jericho. That day, Yeshua broke the news to his disciples that he would be killed by the Gentiles when he went up to Jerusalem this time, and that he would be raised from the dead the third day. James and John took this opportunity to secure what they thought were the two highest positions in Yeshua's upcoming kingdom. Mark's gospel tells the short version of the story. As they were going up to Jerusalem, and before they got to the city of Jericho, where they will spend the night with Zacchaeus, a Jewish revenue agent for Rome, Yeshua began to tell the 12 about the things that would happen to him. Behold, which is short for, I want you to understand something right now. We are going up to Jerusalem, where I, myself, the Son of Man, shall be delivered to the ruling priests and sages. They shall condemn him to death, and they shall deliver him to the Gentiles, who shall mock him, and shall scourge him, and shall spit upon him, and shall kill him, but on the third day he shall rise again. It was at that time that Matthew, Mark, and Luke all report this incident among the company of disciples that turns ugly. Rather than ask for themselves, James and John thought it would be more difficult for Yeshua to turn down their mother, so they made her do the dirty work. Matthew 20, verse 20. Then the mother of Zebedee's children came to him with her adult sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing from him. Yeshua asked, "Woman, what do you want?" She stumbled, Oh, Master, grant that these, my two sons, may sit on your right hand and the other on your left when you enter into your kingdom." Yeshua answered her, "Woman, you have no clue as to what you're asking. Yaakov, Yohanan, get over here. Are you able to drink of the cup of pain and betrayal and sorrow that I'm about to drink? Are you able to be immersed in the torture in which I'm about to be immersed?" They said, "Yes, we're able." Yeshua replied, "Okay, you're on. You shall indeed drink from my cup. You will be immersed in my mikveh, but to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it was prepared by my Father." When the other 10 heard what was going on, they were livid. They were moved with indignation against the two brothers. Why were the other disciples indignant? Why were they outraged at the power play of Yohanan and Yaakov? Because once you take up the right and left-hand positions of Yeshua, all you have are the right and left-hand positions under James and John. And once those 4 positions have been filled by those who have kissed their feet, all you have is the 16 positions under them. And so on, and so on, and so on, until you get down to the laity, the people at the bottom who are beholden to serve everyone over them. Verse 25, Yeshua called all of the 12 to him and said, "You know that the Gentiles have princes that exercise dominion, lordship over them. And there are great ones who exercise authority over the princes. But it shall not be so among you. Whoever desires to be great among you shall be your minister. Whoever desires to be a prince among you shall be a servant. The Son of Man," which is an ancient Hebrew figure of speech, meaning I myself, or this human being, came not to be ministered to, but to minister. Yeshua came to serve rather than be served. If you want to be great in his kingdom, you get down on your hands and knees and serve everyone else. You raise them up to walk in the fullness and stature of Yeshua, who lived the life of a servant and was a servant even in his death. This is how you become great in his kingdom. Yeshua said that we are not going to be lords over our own kingdoms. You are not going to be masters over the people. You are not going to conquer the laity and have them groveling at your feet for the next vacant position in your kingdom as you axe the next person that stumbles or doesn't measure up to your standard of loyalty. Yeshua hates it. He hates it. He absolutely hates it with the most holy and righteous hatred. A hatred that comes out of infinite love for those who are systematically abused by both religious and civil tyrants who crush innocent people under their feet. Luke 18:34 tells us that they understood none of these things, and this saying was hid from them. They simply did not understand the things which were spoken. The reason that those things were hidden from them is because they didn't want to hear the truth. They had their own agenda. This is why the doctrine and deeds of the Nikolaiťans are ignored or explained away by religious leaders today, because the foundation of modern Christian denominations are firmly anchored on this manipulative, envy-evoking doctrine. If we do not take a stand and eradicate Nikolaiťanism from our midst, Yeshua will do it. And when he does it, it won't be pretty.
We as believers don't always get it right. Every time we think we are hearing from the Spirit, it may not always be the case. And even if we do hear from the Spirit, if we don't obey, we step outside of the Almighty's will. But what about the apostles? Did they get it right? What did they get wrong? And what can we learn from their mistakes? Michael Rood presents The Acts of the Apostles, a special teaching available only in September.
In order to understand the book of Acts, we have to go back to the opening and closing statements of the former treaties.
In the Acts of the Apostles, Michael Rood sets the stage for the book of Acts. The apostles are suddenly without Yeshua, the Messiah. They must now communicate with the Almighty by His Spirit, no longer having the luxury of speaking with Yeshua in person. The Acts of the Apostles is not on YouTube, and it's not available for sale. But we'll send you this exclusive teaching as our thanks for your love gift donation in September of just $50. Or with a donation of $100 or more, we'll send you the teaching plus a silver-plated shofar candle holder sculptured with scenes of Jerusalem and the words Shabbat Shalom in Hebrew. This handsome showpiece is perfect for welcoming the Sabbath every week. As a thank you from Michael Rood, when you donate $100 or more in September, you'll receive this special gift, plus the Acts of the Apostles teaching that explains how the apostles went through the same spiritual learning processes we do today.
This is the Acts of the Apostles and their disciples as they learn to walk by the Spirit the hard way.
Call now or visit us online to pledge your support and receive these exclusive gifts. Act quickly. This is a limited time offer. Make your love gift donation now.
The Hebrew prophets tell us why the Almighty allows trials and tribulation to come to His people. It is to deliver His people from false shepherds. Hirelings run at the first sign of discomfort or trouble. Their self-preservation instinct compels them to blame and to sacrifice the sheep for their safety rather than, as David did, tackle lions and bears with no more than a sling, a club, and his bare hands. Yeshua promises that He will separate the wheat from the chaff. He will cut off the unproductive branches and prune His vineyard of the branches that do not abide in Him and bear fruit. At the time of the harvest, He will use the necessary tools at His disposal to winnow and purge His threshing floor. As Isaiah so eloquently illustrated in his agricultural parable concerning the chastisement of Judea, fitches are not threshed with a heavy threshing instrument, neither is a cartwheel turned about upon the cumin. But fitches are beaten out with a light staff, and the cumin with just a branch. Grain must be crushed, otherwise one would be threshing it with a light staff forever. But even that is accomplished by the wheel of a cart, not under the hoofs of horsemen. This is the doing of Yehovah Tzebaot, the Lord of hosts. This is wise counsel and an excellent strategy. Yeshua's warning to the assemblies in Asia Minor are a warning to every generation. Whether it takes a light branch or the trampling of horse hoofs, He will do what is necessary to get His bride purged of her filthy, stinking garments contaminated of Babylonian sun god worship, and prepare her for the marriage supper in the Mishkan in heaven. Unless we are willing to hear and obey the words of Yeshua and get the messes cleaned up in our own congregations, the revelation of Yeshua as to the things which must come to pass at the onset of the end times messianic age will fall on deaf ears. That is why we must understand and correct our ways before the brimstone hits the fan. The disciples of Yeshua could not understand why Yeshua was speaking in unexplained parables to the crowd gathered around His home in Capharnaum. The disciples asked Him, why do you speak to the people in parables? He answered, because it is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but it is not given to them. Because whosoever hears and obeys, to him more shall be given, and he shall have even more abundance. But whoever does not obey, even that which he has will be taken away from him. That is why I speak to them in parables, because they have eyes but do not see. They have ears but do not hear or understand. Because the saints in Ephesus hated the Nikolaiťan religious system that had already found root in other assemblies, Yeshua praised them and encouraged them to go deeper with him. They had tested those who claimed to be apostles, sent ones, but found that they had only sent themselves to fleece the flock, take the booty, and run. They could not tolerate evil in their midst. Those who did not have the Torah written on their hearts were quickly exposed as frauds. Those who did not manifest the fruit of the Spirit of God exposed themselves, regardless the incessant wagging of their tongues on how often the Almighty speaks to them. Nothing in their lives evidenced that the Holy Spirit was in them. It is easy to hide behind religion in a world of religious fakes, but Yeshua sees everything that is going on behind the curtain, and those who have the Messiah in them can see through the smoke and thunder and lightning of religious sideshows. True believers cannot stand the fakery of man-made religion. They want the meat of the word, even if it is sometimes hard to swallow. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 6, He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the assemblies. To him that overcomes will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. It is on this bleak and desolate Isle of Patmos that John received the revelation of Yeshua as the Messiah, the Almighty Judge who will rule the earth with absolute power and authority. Though the rulers of this world conspire against Yehovah and against the Messiah, the Almighty will have them in derision as their plans of global dominion are incinerated before their eyes. The minions who have bowed at the feet of Satan for their piece of the New World Order will have their hopes dashed upon the rock as Yeshua destroys those who attempt to annihilate Israel and nullify the everlasting covenant God made with his people. Yes, all of the land from the Euphrates to the Nile belongs to the sons of Israel. Every nation that stands against that covenant will find itself on the battlefield against the Almighty. I'm Michael Rood, bidding you shalom, peace. And I will see you on the sea of fire and glass when the smoke clears.